In 2016, Sister Ding Ray and I were partnered to oversee several churches' work. Not long after that, an upper leader had Ding Ray go to a church to take care of a report letter there. She came back in no time. I was thinking the issue there was complicated. She came back after so little time. Did she resolve the issue? Unsurprisingly, a letter came for Ding Ray from the upper leader before long. She hadn't fully resolved the problem, and someone else needed to go look into it again. The leader told Ding Ray to do some real self-reflection and learn a lesson. Ding Ray got pretty down after reading that and said, "I can't fix practical problems, and I delayed the church's work." I knew a bit about what was in that report letter, and it was a fairly complex issue. It involved lots of people and would require fellowship on plenty of things. Those involved had to be spoken with individually, so it couldn't be fully done quickly. I wondered if Ding Ray was too eager to wrap things up. I thought about pointing it out to her and helping her self-reflect and know herself. But then I thought she was already feeling bad. So if I pointed out her problems, she might feel embarrassed and even more down. Then what if she said I lacked empathy and she grew distant and biased against me? We were newly partnered, so it would be hard to get along if things got tense between us. At a time like that, if I said some comforting, encouraging things, she'd feel I was kind and easy to get along with. So I consoled her. It's totally normal for us to make mistakes and fail sometimes in our work. Don't be too hard on yourself. When I was new to handling report letters, I had worse failures than you. Then I told her about my experiences of failure in my work. That anxious look immediately disappeared from her face, and she said happily, "I was worried about what you'd think of me. I hadn't imagined you were such a sweet person." I was really pleased with myself when I heard her say that. I felt like I was humane and understanding. Another time, Ding Ray told me about how she and a sister hadn't been able to work well together. She said it was the other sister's problem, and she seemed really angry when she talked about it. I noticed she was kind of petty and lacked self-awareness. I remembered hearing the leader talk before about them not getting along. The other sister had an arrogant disposition, but Ding Ray loved nitpicking, and when things came up, she didn't accept them from God. She'd pull long face and ignore whoever injured her pride. She didn't discuss work with them and vented her anger through it, delaying progress on it. The leader fellowshiped with her, but she didn't self-reflect or learn about herself. That other sister had some problems, but Ding Ray's problems were worse. I wanted to point out her issues, but then I wondered if I brought it up, not sparing any words, would she say I was treating her unfairly? Then wouldn't I lose the good impression she had of me? So I went along with her, saying, "The sister you partnered with had some problem areas too." Ding Ray's duty was changed later on, and she took on different work. I got a different partner. As soon as she saw me, she said, "When I heard I was going to work with you, it felt like a lot of pressure. I've heard you have good humanity and work well with everyone. If our partnership is rocky, I'll be totally exposed. It'll definitely be a problem with my humanity." When she said that, rather than self-reflecting, I just patted myself on the back. I felt like I really did have good humanity. And once, a sister partnered with Ding Ray saw me and said, "She and I don't work well together, but she always says how well the two of you got along. I guess I'm really corrupt." I was thinking that Ding Ray's pride couldn't take it because that sister was too blunt, too direct with Ding Ray's problems. While interacting with Ding Ray, I was tolerant and patient about her issues, and didn't argue with her. I proactively discussed any work issues with her and sought out her suggestions a lot. That prevented any conflict. Not long after that, I heard the leader say that Ding Ray was pretty arrogant and didn't accept truths. She never worked well with others. She was dismissed because she didn't change after fellowship and was ineffective in her duty. The leader brought up my problems later on, saying, "As a leader, no matter how serious a brother's or sister's problem is, if you don't bring it up and call them out, but always coddle your relationships, that's irresponsible in your work." That's how you were with Ding Ray. She can't work well with anyone else, but she's happy to work with you, saying you're kind and understanding. Don't you think you should reflect on this? Then another leader said, "Everyone's assessments of you lately have been positive, saying you're considerate and pleasant. Everyone has a place for you in their heart, and they don't seek truths and things. That's an issue with you. Working in this way, you're not exalting God and bearing witness to Him. Aren't you bringing people before you?" I had a hard time taking it at first, brought to tears feeling wronged and making excuses in my heart. The others having good things to say about me meant I had good humanity and was easy to get along with. How could they say I was bringing others before myself? Then my partner's sister also reminded me to do some self-reflection. So I finally peacefully prayed to God, asking Him to enlighten me to know myself. I read a passage of God's words later. Almighty God says, "Only open-hearted, confidential interactions among brothers and sisters can yield benefits, and in performing one's duty, it is all the more necessary to be open-hearted and confidential, so that people can cooperate in harmony." When you interact with others, you must first have them perceive your true heart and sincerity. If, in speaking and working together and making contact with others, someone's words are perfunctory, grandiloquent, pleasantries, flattery, irresponsible, and imaginary, or if they simply speak to seek the other's favor, then their words lack all credibility, and they are not sincere in the least. This is their mode of interaction with others, no matter who those others are. Such a person does not have an honest heart. This is not an honest person. Say someone was in a negative state, and they say to you sincerely, "Tell me why exactly I'm so negative. I just can't figure it out." And say you do, in fact, understand their problem in your heart, but you do not tell them, instead saying, "It's nothing. You're not being negative. I get that way too." These words are a great consolation to their hearer, but your attitude is not sincere. You are being perfunctory with the other person, so as to make them feel more comfortable and consoled, you have refrained from speaking honestly with them. You are not helping them in earnest and putting their problem plainly, so that they can leave their negativity behind. You have not done what an honest person should, all for the sake of trying to console them and make sure there is no estrangement or conflict between you. You have done the bare minimum with them. And this is not what it is to be an honest person. So, as an honest person, what should you do when encountering this kind of situation? You need to tell them what you have seen and identified. I will tell you what I have seen and what I have experienced. You decide whether what I say is right or wrong. If it's wrong, you don't have to accept it. If it's right, I hope you will. If I say something that is hard for you to hear and hurts you, I hope you can accept it from God. My intention and purpose is to help you. I see the issue clearly. Because you feel that you have been humiliated in public and no one feeds your ego, and you think everyone else looks down on you, that you are being attacked, and that you have never been so wronged, you can't accept it and become negative. What do you think? Is this what's really going on? And hearing this, they feel it is indeed the case. This is what is actually in your heart. But if you are not an honest person, you will not say it. You will say, I often get negative too. And when the other person hears that everyone gets negative, they think it is normal for them to be negative. And in the end, they do not leave their negativity behind. If you are an honest person and you help them with an honest attitude and an honest heart, you can help them understand the truth and leave their negativity behind. Plenty of so-called good people in society speaking in a very lofty manner. And even though they outwardly seem not to have done any great evil, they are very deceitful and slippery. In particular, they are able to see which way the wind blows, and they are smooth and worldly in their eloquence. Such a good person is a false one, a hypocrite. Such a person is merely pretending to be good. All those who stick to the middle ground are the most sinister. They try not to offend anyone. They are people pleasers. They go along with things, and no one can see through them. A person like that is a living Satan. From that, I learned if I only say supportive, flattering things in my interactions with others, and I don't point out issues I see, that's not truly helping them and won't benefit them at all. God says that's sticking to the middle ground, being a cunning people pleaser. That's going whichever way the wind blows, gratifying everyone, offending no one. It's being a living Satan. Reflecting on my own behavior, I saw I was exactly the sort of person God exposed. When Ding Ring didn't resolve that report letter and the work had to be redone, I knew it was because she was looking for a quick return. I should have pointed out her issue and helped her self-reflect. But I was afraid she'd say I was inconsiderate and lacked humanity. So I was encouraging and even talked about my failures to console her. After I said all that, she wasn't upset anymore and didn't reflect much on her corrupt disposition. It's okay to integrate personal experiences into fellowship to help others. But you should primarily use your failures and self-knowledge to guide them to reflect and learn about themselves. But that wasn't what I was trying to achieve by sharing my personal failures. It was to comfort people so they felt like everyone was equally corrupt and mistakes were totally normal. That subtly allowed them to over-accommodate themselves. It wasn't bearing witness to God, but was misleading people. Later, I saw Jing Rui couldn't work well with others, but was always nitpicking. I didn't point it out to her so I could protect my reputation, but still agreed with her about others' problems. And in my interactions with her, when I saw her being bratty, I let her get away with it. As a result, she didn't see her own problems and let herself live within corruption. Wasn't that harming her? I read another passage of God's words later. Almighty God says, "There must be a standard for having good humanity. It does not involve taking the path of moderation, not sticking to principles, endeavoring not to offend anyone, currying favor everywhere you go, being smooth and slick with everyone you meet, and making everyone speak well of you. This is not the standard." So, what is the standard? It is being able to submit to God and the truth. It is approaching one's duty in all manner of people, events, and things with principles and a sense of responsibility. This is plain for all to see. Everyone is clear about this in their heart. Moreover, God searches people's hearts and knows their situation, each and every one, no matter who they are. No one can fool God. Some people always boast that they possess good humanity, that they never speak ill of others, never harm anyone else's interests, and they claim never to have coveted other people's property. When there is a dispute over interests, they even prefer to suffer loss than take advantage of others, and everyone else thinks they are good people. However, when performing their duties in God's house, they are wily and slippery, always scheming for themselves. Never do they think of the interests of God's house. Never do they treat as urgent the things God treats as urgent, or think as God thinks. And never can they set aside their own interests so as to perform their duties. They never forsake their own interests. Even when they see evildoers committing evil, they do not expose them. They have no principles whatsoever. What kind of humanity is this? It is not good humanity. A truly good person can accept the truth and submit to God. They are responsible and have a burden in their duty. They uphold principles and protect the church's work. They're also principled toward others. Seeing a brother's or sister's issues or faults, they can offer the appropriate fellowship and help. If someone violates principles and seriously disrupts the church's work, they can deal with them appropriately and don't act out of emotion and fear offending them, but uphold principles and church work. That's being a truly good person. I used to think that not criticizing someone's mistakes, exposing their shortcomings, or embarrassing them was being a good, kind person. For years, no matter who I worked with, I always chose my words to be comforting and nice. I was always considering how to make others feel I was reasonable and understanding, pandering to their mood, saying heartwarming things. I didn't directly point out others' issues I saw in their duties, and even said pleasant, consoling things to mislead them, or put it really gently. Everyone praised me for having good humanity and being easy to get along with. I saw myself as a good person and was proud of that. I realized through the revelations of God's words that for years, the ways I thought I was being a good person were actually Satan's worldly philosophies. I seemed to have a good humanity. I was accommodating and didn't offend anyone. I stayed on good terms with everyone. But in my heart, I only considered my own benefit. I was totally irresponsible about my work and others' life entry. I wasn't remotely a good person. I was selfish, vile, and a slippery people pleaser, a false nice guy. Thinking about how I used to boast about having good humanity and considered myself a good person, I was actually really shameless. When I realized this, I said a prayer. God, your words have shown me what truly good humanity is. I want to put the truth into practice and be someone with good humanity. Later on, the church partnered me with Qinglin and Li Yue to water new believers. Before long, I discovered that Li Yue was careless and irresponsible in her duty. She was often busy with personal matters, holding up work. Qinglin and I fellowship with her, having her prioritize things so church work wasn't delayed. To my surprise, she didn't accept it, but made excuses and lost her temper. Qinglin integrated God's words into her fellowship and dissection of her issue. But Li Yue didn't have any self-awareness. She said she lacked stature and couldn't put it into practice. Seeing her act like that, I thought that if I kept on dissecting her problem, she'd definitely say I was demanding, that I wasn't a good person and was holding her back. I felt I shouldn't expose her so we'd keep getting along well. So I politely reassured her. Your stature is small, and we can understand. Just don't hold up work in the future. When I said that, Li Yue's furrowed brows relaxed, and I could see she wasn't as upset. She became really friendly toward me after that. I was very happy and felt that I did have a good approach for fellowship. Though I pointed out her problem, she still thought well of me. But she still failed to take on a burden in her duty, and even became biased against Qinglin, saying she was too demanding. Qinglin pointed out my issue later, saying, "Do you know what the nature of your fellowship with Li Yue the other day was? We fellowship with her to help her know herself, self-reflect, and repent. But what you wrapped up with undid the work of our previous fellowship. It not only didn't help her reflect, but also made her think you're understanding while I'm too demanding of her. Doing that has a disruptive, undermining nature, and it didn't help her at all." Qinglin's words were gutting for me. In my pain, I came before God and prayed. God, faced with this sister's criticism, I see I didn't realize the seriousness of this issue. But I know that everything I encounter every day is permitted by you. Please enlighten and guide me to know myself. I read a passage of God's words after that. Almighty God says, "The first technique with which Antichrists control people is winning over their hearts." How many ways are there to win over people's hearts? One way is to lure them with small favors, sometimes giving them little rewards, sometimes complimenting, sometimes making little promises to them, and sometimes for duties that are relatively prestigious and prominent, or that people think may afford the person who does them with some advantages and raise them in others' esteem. Then the Antichrists assign those duties to those who they want to win over. Some people are overly emotional and are always constricted by their emotions when performing their duty. Their leader says this is due to their small stature, and that there's nothing wrong with it. Some people are lazy and unfaithful to their duty, and their leader does not rebuke them, but says pleasant, nice-sounding things at every turn in order to please them and be called good, and to show them how understanding and loving they are, so that these people will think, our leader is like a loving mother. He's so kind. He really does represent God. He really is from God. The unspoken implication in this is that their leader can act as God's mouthpiece, that they can represent God. Is this the leader's goal? Perhaps it is not that clear, but one of their goals can clearly be seen. They would have people say that they are a wonderful leader, considerate of others, sympathetic to people's weaknesses, and very understanding of how others feel. Some church leaders, upon seeing their brothers or sisters performing their duties carelessly and perfunctorily, do not rebuke them, though they should. When they see something that is clearly detrimental to the interests of God's house, they turn a blind eye and make no inquiries, so as not to cause the least offense to others. In fact, they are not really showing consideration for people's weaknesses. Instead, their intention is to win people over, which they are fully aware of. If I keep this up and don't cause offense to anyone, they'll think I'm a good leader. They'll have a good high opinion of me. They'll give me recognition and like me, no matter how much damage is done to the interests of God's house, and no matter how greatly God's chosen people are impeded in their life entry, or how greatly their church life is disturbed. Such leaders persist in their satanic philosophy and cause no offense to anyone. There is never a sense of self-reproach in their hearts. Seeing someone causing disruption and disturbances, at most, they might make casual mention of this issue in passing, and then be done with it. They do not fellowship on the truth, nor do they point out the essence of the problem to this person, and less still do they dissect their state. They never communicate what God's will is. The false leaders never expose or dissect what kind of errors people often make, or the corrupt dispositions people often reveal. They don't solve any real problems, but instead always tolerate people's misconduct and outpourings of corruption, and remain unconcerned no matter how negative or weak people are, merely preaching some words of doctrine, making a few perfunctory exhortations, trying to avoid conflict. As a result, God's chosen ones do not reflect on and try to know themselves. They gain no resolution to the outpourings of various kinds of corruption, and live amid words, phrases, notions, and imaginings, without any entry into life. They even believe in their hearts that our leader has even more understanding for our weaknesses than God does. Our stature may be too small to live up to God's requirements, but we need only fulfill the requirements of our leader. By obeying our leader, we are obeying God. If a day comes when the above replaces our leader, then we will make ourselves heard. To keep our leader and stop him being replaced by the above, we will negotiate with the above and force him into agreeing to our demands. This is how we will do right by our leader. When people have such thoughts in their hearts, when they have such a relationship with the leader, and in their hearts they feel dependence, admiration, and veneration toward their leader, then they will have come to have ever greater faith in this leader. It is the leader's words they want to hear, and they stop searching for the truth in God's words. Such a leader has almost taken the place of God in people's hearts. If a leader is willing to maintain such a relationship with God's chosen people, if they derive a feeling of enjoyment from it in their heart, and believes that God's chosen ones ought to treat them like this, then there is no difference between them and Paul, and they have already set foot on the path of the Antichrists. God reveals Antichrists as incredibly despicable and evil. To strengthen their place in others' hearts, they never offend people. If they notice someone violating principles, they don't fellowship on the truth to resolve the problem or expose and put a stop to it. Instead, they say nice things to win over their support, so others like them, think they're loving, understanding, and forgiving. but they resist and dislike God's words and requirements and don't practice or enter into them. They end up bringing others before them. I reflected on how the nature of my actions was just like Antichrist's. I clearly saw mistakes in brothers and sisters' duties, even some that were serious and had already impacted the work. So I should have pointed them out. Then they could see the problem's essence and its serious consequences and repent quickly. But I was afraid exposing people's problems would offend them. So I pandered to their flesh, saying some nice-sounding things to win their support. For example, Li Yue was being careless and irresponsible in her duty, delaying work. When Qinglin fellowshipped and exposed her issue, I didn't fellowship in a collaborative way, guiding Li Yue to know herself, but afraid that she'd be biased against me if I spoke sternly. I went with her feelings, being nice. That made me look more loving than Qinglin, able to forgive and tolerate her weaknesses, making Li Yue friendly toward me and resistant to Qinglin, and giving her something against Qinglin. That's how I was with Dingrei too. I saw her issue, but instead of fellowshipping and helping, guiding her to reflect and see her problem, I always indulged her. I wasn't exalting or bearing witness to God in my duty that way, and I wasn't fulfilling my responsibilities. I was a church leader, but when I saw brothers and sisters violating principles out of corruption, I didn't fellowship truth to resolve the issue, but pandered to their flesh, saying some comforting things to fool them. I indulged them living in corruption, accommodating and sparing themselves. The nature of what I did was to keep others from entering the reality of the truth. They didn't know the truth or have an understanding of God, but were annoyed by God's demands. They all thought I was great, saying I was forgiving and kind, and they were growing closer to me. Wasn't that misleading people? I saw that I was living by satanic philosophies, being a nice guy, doing nothing but evil. It looked like I was treating others well, but in fact I was harming brothers and sisters and delaying church work. I was faking being good. I used an underhanded tactic to win the others' respect and admiration, bringing everyone before me. I was on an Antichrist's path. Over those years, I'd given up my home and job to do a duty. I'd suffer quite a bit, and worked a lot too. I never imagined I'd end up on the path of an Antichrist. Seeing that I'd offended God's disposition, fear gripped my heart. I felt even more nauseated and disgusted by myself. In tears, I prayed, "Oh God, I've been chasing status and protecting my relationships to win others' support. That disposition of mine is disgusting to you, and if I'm punished, that will be your righteousness. God, I want to repent." A little while later, Li Yue was still muddling through her duty, not accomplishing anything, and she hadn't changed after fellowship. We told our leader about her issues. A few days later, the leader attended our gathering and fellowshipped on Li Yue's issues. But Li Yue still didn't understand herself at all. The leader asked me and Qinglin to state our positions. Considering the situation, should Li Yue be dismissed? This question took me a bit by surprise. I was thinking, with Li Yue sitting right there, how could I say anything? If I spoke the truth and she were dismissed, then she might hate me. I felt like I shouldn't speak up. At that moment, I felt a strong pang of guilt. I realized that once again I was thinking of protecting my place in others' hearts. I said a silent prayer to God in my heart. God, I'm thinking again about living by satanic philosophies, protecting my image, acting like a nice guy. Please guide me to speak the truth and turn my back on my incorrect motives. I remembered a passage of God's words after praying. Almighty God says, if your heart is increasingly honest and increasingly oriented toward God, and if you know to protect the interests of God's house when you perform your duty, and your conscience is troubled when you fail to protect these interests, then this is proof that the truth has had an effect in you and has become your life. Once the truth has become life in you, when you observe someone who is blasphemous toward God, unfearful of God, and careless and perfunctory while performing their duty, or who interrupts and interferes with church work, you'll respond according to the principles of the truth and will be able to identify and expose them as necessary. God's word showed me that when things crop up, we have to stand on the side of God and uphold church work. When we see others violating principles, disrupting church work, we can't shield them, but should follow principles of the truth. This is the true human likeness that God asks us to live out. Based on Li Yue's behavior, she wasn't suited to continue doing that work at that time. I couldn't fear offending her, but I had to uphold church work, be an honest person, and clarify my position. And so, I explained my perspective. After weighing everything, the leader dismissed Li Yue. After that, I was paired up to do a duty with Sister Wang Jia. In our interactions, I noticed that sometimes she delayed church work for personal matters. I fellowship with her that work has to come first. Before long, I heard our leader say she was going to promote Wang Jia to manage a project. My thought was, Wang Jia had caliber and was capable, so she'd be okay in charge of work. But when her personal matters conflicted with work, sometimes she didn't prioritize her duty. If she didn't become aware of that problem, would work be delayed with her in charge? As her partner, I had a responsibility to go fellowship and point it out to her. But I hesitated when it got to the tip of my tongue. I had already fellowshiped with her on that kind of issue. If I brought it up again, would she say I wouldn't let go of the issue, but was exposing her flaws nonstop? I realized I was in the wrong state again, so I silently prayed. I thought of a passage of God's words I read before. Almighty God says, God demands that people tell the truth, say what they think, and not trick, mislead, make fun of, satirize, insult, mock, constrict others, expose their weaknesses, or hurt them. Are these not the principles of speech? What does it mean to say one should not expose people's weaknesses? It means not to get dirt on other people. Do not hold on to their past mistakes or shortcomings in order to judge or condemn them. This is the least you should do. On the proactive side, how is constructive speech expressed? It is mainly encouraging, orienting, guiding, exhorting, understanding, and comforting. Also, in some special instances, it becomes necessary to directly expose other people's errors and deal with and prune them, so that they gain knowledge of the truth and desire to repent. Only then is the due effect achieved. This way of practicing is of great benefit to people. It is a real help to them, and it is constructive for them. is it not? And what, in sum, is the principle behind speaking? It is this: say what's in your heart and speak of your true experiences and what you really think. These words are the most beneficial to people. They provide for people. They help them. They are positive. Refuse to say those fake words, those words that do not benefit or edify people. This will avoid harming them or tripping them up, plunging them into negativity and having a negative effect. You must say positive things. You must strive to help people as much as you can, to benefit them, to provide to them, to produce in them true faith in God. And you must allow people to be helped and to gain much from your experiences of God's words and the way you solve problems, and to be able to understand the path of experiencing the work of God and entering the reality of the truth, allowing them to enter into life and making their life grow, which is all the effect of your words having principles and being edifying to people. I found a path of practice from God's words, too. In my interactions, I have to tell the truth so people can gain and be edified. I can't taunt them, be sarcastic, or mock them. I also understood that when God says not to expose people's weaknesses, it's about not getting dirt on them, judging and condemning. Pointing out and revealing their issues so they can learn a lesson isn't exposing weaknesses, but is loving help. Wang Jia didn't know herself, and pointing out her issue was reminding and helping her. Even if she didn't accept it right away and thought poorly of me, I should handle it appropriately. As long as she was a pursuer of the truth, she would later seek the truth and change. Understanding this, I fellowshiped with Wang Jia on her problem. Later on, Wang Jia said in an essay she wrote, "If the sister I was partnered with hadn't exposed and dissected my issue, I wouldn't have self-reflected or seen the seriousness of my problem, much less repented and changed." Seeing that Wang Jia had gained that understanding, I thanked God in my heart. It was God's words that helped me see the true face of my nice guy act and changed my mistaken perspective on pursuit. Thank God for His salvation.